Now, on this particular occasion, although UK-Palestine has been, it seems a particularly inappropriate name for the obvious reasons given our subject matter. And of course, for some of our friends here, this is not an abstract matter. This hunger is being experienced right now and in the body. Now, mass starvation is one of the many aspects of genocide which are taking place. And it was already flagged up as a policy by the Israeli Defense Minister when he said, we are imposing a total siege on Gaza. No electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. And despite half-hearted efforts and weasel words by Israel's allies, nothing has been done to alleviate hunger. Human Rights Watch reported that 48% of households in northern Gaza and 38% of displaced people in southern Gaza had experienced severe levels. We should remember that people are being starved less than 50 miles from the brimming food markets and restaurants of Tel Aviv. As well as being a war crime, starvation has long been a tool in the armory of settler colonialism, part of what Patrick Wolf calls the logic of elimination. The British, who paved the way for Zionist settler colonialism, have form in this respect, advocating starvation for the Irish as early as the 16th century and presiding over famine in Ireland in the 19th century and Bengal in the 20th. And thinking of history, keeping the people of Gaza, quotes, on a diet was a policy of the Israeli government long before October the 7th. This afternoon, we're going to look at deliberate starvation from the perspectives of its physical impacts, its psychological impacts, and in the ways in which deliberately blocking food aid, destroying the means of providing and distributing food by attacks on warehouses, killing aid workers, proscribing UNRWA, has exacerbated community breakdown. As Dr. Samar Jabba has described it, with the intention of inflicting demoralization and humiliation, as well as hunger and desperation. So we're going to start our presentations this afternoon with a dear colleague from Oxford, Dr. Deborah Harrington. She is a consultant obstetrician and specialist in maternal and fetal medicine at Oxford University Hospitals. She has a strong interest in medical education and is Director of Medical Education at Oxford University Hospitals. She has been visiting Gaza since 2016 as part of a group of medical teachers led by Professor Nick Maynard to provide clinical teaching to medical students and postgraduate doctors in training. She was in Gaza in January this year as part of a joint emergency medical team, where she worked in Al-Aqsa Hospital. Since returning, she has continued advocacy work to highlight the ongoing humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, and in particular, the impact on women and children. Thank you, Deborah, and over to you. You're muted, Deborah.
I was behaving and making sure that I was muted. Thank you so much, Gwyn, for inviting me. I'm just going to share some slides. Can you see my slides? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm not in any way pretending I'm an expert in this area, and I speak very much from a kind of humanitarian sort of from a aspect. But I think sometimes that's quite important, and perhaps bringing the human through. So although I'm going to talk a little bit about some sort of facts and figures, I actually also want to demonstrate some of this with the impact it has on individuals. So I think this is a very clear statement of fact. Giving birth shouldn't be a matter of life or death. And as we've all know, through the last 13 months, that clearly has become a matter of life or death in Gaza. And 180 women, it's probably gone down to 160 women, are giving birth every day in Gaza. About 50,000 women are pregnant. And what women and their newborns are having to face in this humanitarian catastrophe will continue on for the next decade. So it's not just impacting now, but the impact of what has happened will last for decades and generations when the hostilities have stopped. I don't really need to tell you of all the recent headlines that we've seen, but I just want to sort of highlight the fact on, that this is an impact on the civilian population. 70% of people who have been killed are women and children, as they are in every conflict. 80% of victims have been killed within their own residential or similar shelters. And that aspect says that there is a sort of indifference really to the death of civilians or the impact of the means and methods of warfare. So what is the latest situation with respect to women? Well, there are, as I've said, about 50,000 women pregnant in Gaza, about another 73,000 women pregnant in the West Bank. That means that there are about 12,000 deliveries expected in the next month, 4,000 in Gaza, double that in the West Bank. And as we know, virtually the whole population of Gaza has been internally displaced, often multiple times, and living in completely unsatisfactory, unsafe shelters. Nowhere is safe in Gaza. Most people now are facing winter, they're facing floods, and they not only do they are under nowhere is safe, they're not safe from a number of reasons, not just the military action. They're not safe because of the sewage and sanitation. They haven't got clean water, and now increasingly again the insecurity when it comes to food. And I don't know if you can see there, but about the IPC have just estimated that about 48,000, that means every pregnant woman, 48,000 pregnant women are at emergency or catastrophic risk of food insecurity. So what's the burden of war on women? Well, 70% of fatalities, as I said, are women, and we're talking about the 160 women that are giving birth daily currently. 48,000 women are experiencing emergency or catastrophic food insecurity. And that is what is going to have an impact on future health. And that's really what Gwyn has asked me to talk about. I'm sure all of you here are much more learned than me, but are aware of what the IPC is, the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification. And that's a very well-respected classification of food insecurity and acute malnutrition situations, and that's to help inform security responses. So sort of level 1 is that there isn't any, level 2 is where an area is stressed, level 3 is where there is crisis. And up until September, virtually the whole of Gaza was in crisis level. But since September, since the escalation, since the decrease in aid getting in, this has been escalated to virtually the whole population being at level 4. And there is an estimation that 130,000 people, and this was mid-October, are currently in phase 5. Phase 5 meaning catastrophic or famine situation. And that has got significantly worse, as we know, since the escalation in particularly in northern Gaza, where the situation has rapidly deteriorated. And according to OCHA data, the number of aid shipments that have been let into Gaza since October is lower than any time since October last year, and vastly inadequate for the needs. There's been virtually no aid getting into the most northern parts of Gaza in the last 60 days. Food access is at a critical level and rapidly deteriorating. Not only is it just not available in markets, and when I've talked to my friends there, they've said, you know, it's for some, it's not lack of money, it's just that there are no goods to buy in the markets. But to many, it is also an economic problem in that the cost of food, fuel, basics have gone up sometimes by thousands of percents. And all of that means that the IPC have come out with a statement saying it can be assumed that starvation, malnutrition and excess mortality due to malnutrition and disease are rapidly increasing in these areas. Famine thresholds have already been crossed or else will be in the near future. And action is required in days, not weeks. Now, that's already several weeks ago when that statement came out. And I just want to show you a bit of a comparison. This is a table. Every country is graded by the IPC. This is this level of food insecurity, risk of malnutrition. And here I think we all know that Afghanistan as a country, you know, is in dire straits. And that much of their population are in emergency or in crisis or emergency levels, so phase 3 or phase 4. But look at the Gaza Strip. Look at how many people are now being estimated between November this year and into early next year to be at phase 5, and that means at critical or catastrophic or famine levels. And then behind that, the vast majority of the population in phase 4. So we're talking about an absolutely catastrophic situation. So what are the implications for hunger in the womb? And there are many, and they are immediate and they are ones that are long term. And the immediate ones, there is a lot of data from other areas of conflict, from famine, from other, you know, natural or man-made causes of their sort of implications, and there are many. So in conflict, there is evidence that miscarriage rates go up and stillbirth. There's certainly intrauterine growth restriction and low birth weight. And that there is some evidence already coming out of Gaza that that is indeed the case. There is increased rates of stillbirth. I'll come onto that in a second. And that increases, there's also an increased risk of neonatal and childhood mortality. And people are much more, children are much more vulnerable, as are mothers, to risks like infection. But I just want to pick out one of those things. Women in Gaza are already at health risk, you know, prior to this, you know, current war. They are about 50% of the population are anemic. And I'm going to choose anemia because it's a really simple thing to understand, but it's something that has major implications for pregnancy and for childbirth, and for the health of children. Anemia as I said, is common. Women are given supplements. Since the 23rd of October, almost all women have had no access to antenatal care or very limited access to antenatal care. They certainly have had very limited access to be able to get the micronutrients and iron supplements that women would be pretty much given as routine prior to this war. And what that means is if you are anemic in pregnancy, you are more likely to have a much smaller baby. You are more likely to give birth prematurely. If you give birth prematurely, that child is more likely to die in the neonatal period or in infancy, because it just hasn't got the reserves to be able to face what it is going to face: infection risk, malnutrition, and all the other problems that we know are facing the health of the population in Gaza at the moment. But it also has an implication for childbirth, because if you enter childbirth really anemic, you have no reserves for the blood loss that may occur in giving birth, and indeed you might bleed more in the process of giving birth. So if you enter labour and you're already anemic, you are more likely to then if you hemorrhage, you are more likely to die in childbirth. You're more likely for your caregivers, for your obstetricians and midwives, to use interventions to try and save your life. But that means that you might need a hysterectomy, or it may mean that they just are unable to save your life. You then enter, if you do survive the newborn period with a new baby who you are trying to breastfeed. There's no, because trying to get formula milk is going to be extremely difficult, and you just don't have the reserves to breastfeed. And that means that child won't thrive. It is more likely to die. It will be more vulnerable to infection, as is the mother. And maternal deaths, neonatal deaths, childhood deaths are all going to, are and will continue to increase as a result of starvation and malnutrition of a population. And this is a choice. This has not happened because of some natural disaster. This is a deliberate, this is a very deliberate process. It's known exactly that the impacts of not allowing aid in and malnutrition on the population. And then there are the long-term implications, and there's a lot of data, very long-term data from famines. There was a big study of the Dutch cohort from the Second World War. From China, there is huge amounts of evidence from famine from Nigeria, from many areas of famine, long-term over decades. And we know that if you are exposed to malnutrition, if you're exposed to famine during pregnancy, that has an implication, particularly depending on when it happens, of the effect of sort of growth of organs, and even changing your genes, your sort of sort of genetics, what genes are switched on, what are switched off. And so if you survive, that will have lifelong implications. This is not reversible. These are permanent. And children who are exposed to malnutrition in the womb, particularly in early or mid trimester, so the middle part of pregnancy, are more likely to have chronic diseases. They're more likely to develop diabetes, cardiovascular problems, kidney problems. If you're exposed to malnutrition, your kidneys don't produce the number of little collecting ducts that mean that how you deal with toxins when we're born. And that means that by the time you get to adulthood, you're much more likely to have chronic kidney disease. Your life expectancy is lower. Your growth is stunted. Your intellectual potential is also stunted. And that has sort of capital and economic effects. And that's where the generations effect comes. So vulnerable babies grow up to be vulnerable adults, more likely to have chronic disease, shorter life expectancy, less able to economically support themselves. And they will give birth So those vulnerable mothers will give birth to more vulnerable children, and this is how this doesn't go away in one decade. It continues for generations. Thank you. I thought I'd open it out to questions about sort of any of these aspects. Thank you.
Deborah, thank you so much for laying out in such stark detail the impact of this deliberate policy of undermining a whole population. I expect there will be questions. People may be still reeling from the impact of what you've been speaking about. And maybe I could just start with a question to you, which is less about the question. I'll go for that one. It's from M, and the question is, how long did you stay in Gaza, and what did your average day look like with the constant bombs dropping? Were there any safety mechanisms for yourself and other doctors?
My visit was far too short. I was part of the first international emergency teams allowed in, other than Médecins Sans Frontières and the UN delegations that had been in before, but we were the first of the sort of larger international NGOs that were allowed in. And I went with MAP, Medical Aid to Palestinians, and the IRC, International Rescue Committee. And I was one of a number of doctors and also other people, experts in WASH and logistics and communications and that type of thing. What did I see? I went to a what would be effectively what we would call a district general hospital in the middle area in Beir el-Jabal, in the middle part of Gaza. It was horrific. It was full of hundreds and hundreds of people severely injured, waiting for surgeries, waves and waves of mass casualties coming in through a very, totally overwhelmed casualty department. And in and amongst that were literally thousands, I would say, of civilians trying to just seek what they thought was security and safety within the hospital compounds. What did I see? I went to see and look after, do obstetrics. I'm a frontline obstetrician. I do high risk obstetrics. I'm on a labour ward. I was on a labour ward day before yesterday. So I was expecting to see lots of pregnant women, both antenatally, and help my colleagues there who were exhausted with deliveries. What actually happened was that pregnant women were sort of moved out of all hospitals to much smaller units, simply because hospitals were overwhelmed with trauma and casualties. And so women yet again suffered, really, and they were pushed in. They were sort of they're for very understandable reasons. The hospital just had to deal with what came through the door, which was trauma. And so the maternity services were moved out to what were really much smaller units that weren't equipped to manage anything high risk. And there were less and less of them that were available for women. And you may remember when, as the population got pushed and forced down into Rafah, there was one tiny maternity hospital in Rafah, which I'd visited before. And during pre-war, it did about 10 to 12 births a day. And that increased to nearly 100 a day. And they had 5 beds in the hospital. And women were literally delivering and then having to get off the bed for the next woman to, to give birth, unsanitary, lack of antibiotics, lack of every medication, lack of theatre space to do emergency cesarean sections. They were women who hadn't had any antenatal care. They didn't know if their babies were alive or dead when they came in. And that's kind of what has been ongoing.
A couple of other questions have come in. One was from, do you mind if I read it out, Teresa, or would you like to read it out? What are the effects of starvation in the mother on the developing brain of the child in the womb?
Well, like everything, so in an embryo, as it develops, this is huge amounts of cell growth and cell replication, multiplication. And so all organs, including the brain, if you have some kind of insult, such as acute malnutrition, it will impact the healthy growth. And it's known actually from those long-term studies into famine that that there are major implications on the neurodevelopment of children exposed to malnutrition insults, and that it does have an impact. It's also got an impact on mental health. Things like schizophrenia are much higher. There's much higher incident of things like schizophrenia in babies that have been exposed to malnutrition in utero. So it has the actual. There may be other members of the call who would have a better understanding than me, but of how it works. But the insult of malnutrition, which you need to grow a healthy brain, and as you can imagine, if you don't have those nutrients, you won't grow a healthy brain, and that will impact on your neuro development.
Thank you, Deborah. I can't help thinking that word insult keeps resonating with me, because although it's a medical term, I know it's also a human term, and it so accurately, well, partly accurately describes what is being done. It is an insult.
It does, exactly.
One of the questions that's asked was the one that I wanted to ask as well, which is because I know that you and Nick Maynard have been to see government ministers.
Yes.
The question is, has the UK government taken this serious information which you shared with us now? Have they taken it into account, was the question.
I think so I'm going to turn it slightly. They know. Every expert in the field has shared with them, and people much more knowledgeable than me. Even in the I've been very lucky to have spoken to many politicians. I've been invited to Parliament several times. But as you said, we met with the previous foreign minister, and there were every CEO from every major health agency and humanitarian agency represented, and there have been many meetings since. I think we all know that there hasn't been enough action. And so, yes, I think the first thing is that our government, and then any other government with influence on Israel, is well aware of the facts. What they have done with those facts, I think, is clear for us all to see.
Thank you. There was another question from Alan Gerbert about whether there are any special care baby units left for premature babies.
So that there are neonatal beds, absolutely. Nasser Hospital is the sort of major provider at the moment, and there are some field hospitals.
Can I just to interrupt you for 1 minute? We have somebody who's actually speaking from Nasser Hospital.
Oh,
and so I just wanted to.
Oh, fantastic! Well,
that's Saeed, who is in Nasser Hospital at this very moment.
So yes, there are. some neonatal beds. The number of neonatal beds, as far as I'm aware, and our colleague in NASA may well be able to update us much more accurately than I can. But my understanding is that the number of neonatal cots and adequately staffed, adequately resourced neonatal cots for the need is significantly less than there were a year ago, and a constant difficulty. When I was at Al-Aqsa, actually, they had the neonatal unit was still open, and because where women were generally giving birth, there were some giving birth there, but where women were giving birth was in a really tiny unit that didn't have a neonatal unit and was really only equipped for very low risk women. So any baby that needed neonatal care came back to Al-Aqsa, and I visited it many times, and the sort of head of the neonatal department is a very good friend of mine, and some of the babies that were transferred didn't even have, at that time, the clips that go on the umbilical cord. They were tied with string, and they didn't have surfactant. Many of the antibiotics that they would normally use, oxygen supplies obviously are a major problem in across the both neonates and adult and child. So they lacked a huge amount of the normal resourcing. But yes, there are beds, but just not enough.
Thank you. The next one seems a really important question, and it's what can be done in terms of treatment to avoid in the future the side effects that you've mentioned. How can we help and be effective? From Fatima. Hello.
Thank you. Well, I think the first thing is to say, I think we all know that there needs to be a ceasefire. We need to be unobstructed aid to get in and distributed to the whole of the civilian population, and healthcare facilities need to be stopped being destroyed and attacked, and healthcare workers. But aside from those, which of course we all are aware of, there is women should receive. They need adequate nutrition, of course, and they need to be a priority, and they are prioritized under all humanitarian conventions. They are protected. They have special protections, in fact. One of the things that can happen is that you can reverse almost as quickly as malnutrition has come on. You can reverse it. It's not an irreversible situation. The damage is done, though. So for those babies in utero who have been exposed, that damage is irreversible and likely to be permanent, even with normal nutrition in childhood. Although growth can catch up, many of those risks the damage is done. But giving women micronutrients it is really important, and is actually done now. It's a sort of recommendation for all pregnancies, particularly in areas of in lower income settings. Those are distributed through many, they're the sort of a World Health Organization recommendation, and they are distributed to many areas of sort of low income, and that would not reverse it, but that's what's needed, along with normal nutrition.
Thanks. There's just time for perhaps one question, and there are two questions, but they're quite similar. So it's really about pregnant women being exposed to trauma, which of course the magnitude of trauma doesn't need any kind of expansion, and that it must make women much more vulnerable to that's the assumption in the question, more vulnerable to postpartum psychosis or postnatal depression, and what support is available, if any, was the question.
Well, I think you've got some speakers that may be able to speak about that, but I think the whole of the population is traumatized. That's putting it mildly. You're absolutely right. We do know that women exposed to stresses, it increases their cortisol levels. It does have a major impact on their mental health, but also their physical health and outcomes. So there's very good evidence of the damage that stress like this, psychological stress can have. And absolutely, the whole of the population is going to need psychological support. And of course, women are more vulnerable and are more exposed, particularly around pregnancy and bringing up and looking after family and looking after a newborn, to the risks of psychological, to the psychological impact of conflict. But I think there is somebody who is speaking on there, isn't there, a little bit later.
Thank you very much, Deborah, and thank you so much for your presentation. And I suppose I just want to say that you and Nick and the other doctors that I know and many, many other doctors are doing what you can. And within your medical professions, there's a huge amount of work to be done, as there is in all our professions, to really push them to take a position on this genocide. And evidence such as yours is absolutely crucial in
And
this,
on Monday,
in
I
this
think
endeavour.
I think there is a sort of a World Press Day raising exactly this, which I know that my group are going to be very much involved with.
Thank you so much, and thank you for what you've shared.
Thank you.
And hopefully you'll be able to stay for a bit anyway, but that's fine if you can't.
I will unshare.
Yes, thank you very much. So we're now moving much more to the actual level of lived experience. And Saeed El Kahout, who is a mental health practitioner and a writer and a member of the Palestine Trauma Center team in Gaza, is going to share some of his beautiful and poetic writing. Saeed has been working with a group of orphaned children in Gaza and providing training and support to their carers. His therapeutic work and educational programs have been creative and inspirational, and his writing, which we'll now hear, is eloquent and extremely powerful. And I think probably what we're going to do is that, Saeed, you will read your text in Arabic, and David has the slides which contain the English translation. And your work is in a few sections. So maybe when it's time for David to move to the next slide, you could pause so that you'll be synchronized. Is that all right, David?
Good evening, everybody. First, I would like to thank Dr. Dibra for this human presentation, and I would like to congratulate her on her safe return to her kindness country. As Palestine, I feel grateful that there are those who carry this suffering of Palestine women and represent it of the world. I'm sorry to tell Dr. Debra and all of you that the only hospital in Rafah, Al Hilal Al Emirati hospital for women and gynecology, was destroyed by war tools. Last month, sorry. Thank you again for this important meeting. With this meeting, we feel that world stand with us, and we can send our voice and our message for the people who live outside Palestine. I am sad to say this picture of my daughter Tiba above our home was destroyed in the beginning of the war. But in the different way, Tiba now with me, and تعالي يا بابا. Tiba now with me, and she will say to all of you, hello. We are strong people.
مرحبا سبا.
We are strong people. احنا قويين بابا.
No, not at the moment.
احكي لهم انه we are strong people. So
You
this is
shouldn't have
Tiba,
to be.
and she go to camp school, small camp school every day, and she try to back to a normal life as we can, as it's possible, as you know, in this hard and unhumanitarian condition. So I will okay, bye bye. يلا حبيبي. I will read some of text, and as um, uh, David will translate to you. I will read in Arabic, and David will present it in English. So please, David, go to our friend outside. If you can check to the text cited by our friend outside.
Okay.
No.
So
our
you will start in Arabic?
the next one. Our friend outside. The next one.
I think it's the last one, I think.
Okay. I will read. Have you seen Hunger? Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So you'll start with "Have you seen hunger?" Saeed?
No. Okay.
this
So
one,
as you written to this.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Still of this
Yeah.
still of this text is خارج هذا الوطن الذي صار كله مقصلة لنا أخوة طيبون يحبوننا، لا تتوقف قلوبهم عن التضرع إلى الله ليكف هذا البلاء عنا، ولتتوقف الحرب عن حصد المزيد من الضحايا. يقولون وهم صادقون أنهم لا يبرحون الشاشات، ويتنقلون من محطة إلى محطة أخرى لمتابعة مستجدات المقتلة. بودي أن أخبر هؤلاء الأحباب أننا بخير، وأن الوضع على ما يرام، وأن فريقنا لكرة القدم يحرز كل يوم 20,000 هدف نظيف في شباك خصمنا اللدود، وأننا أبطال اجتزنا عتبات الألم الأولى والأخيرة، ولم نعد نتوجع كلما مررنا في جنازة، وكلما صرخت على ولد لها وين رايح وتركني. بودي أن أطمئنكم أننا تكيفنا مع رمل الخيمة وبردها وفئرانها التي تسطو على ما آخر ما تبقى لنا من طحين وتبول عليه، ونضطر في الصباح أن نعرضه للشمس ثم نعجنه ونخبزه على جوع أطفالنا، فنار الجوع يا سادة تحرق كل شيء. بودي أن أفتح الكاميرا الآن وأسجل لكم من أمام الحديقة على باب الخيمة، فتزهر خلفي الزنابق البيضاء وتلمع زهور الحنون وتزهر أوراق الريحان، لكنني أخجل أن تظهر فتلات البصل التي زرعتها وقد ماتت خوفا وبردا بعد 3 أسابيع من محاولة يائسة لأن تكبر فقط سنتيمترا واحدا. ألم يقولوا لكم أن الأشجار تموت وتخاف؟ فما بالكم بشتلات صغيرة تقضي ليلها الطويل تعد دقائقه وهي تطالع القصف الذي يمزق كل محاولات بنائها الضوئي. وربما كانت الشتلات تحزن كلما سمعتنا نتحدث عن آمالنا العريضة بها في ظل انقطاع البصل، فأصيبت بجلطة كلت أطرافها وماتت مكتئبة. كم أكون سعيدا وأنا أخبركم أن شعب الخيام الجبار قد أعاد التعليم إلى سيرته الأولى، وأن طرقات الركام تسعد بخطوات أطفالنا الصغيرة صباحا فيما يذهبون إلى المدارس، فيصطفوا في الطابور ليرددوا السلام الوطني الفلسطيني، ثم يغنوا بعدها بلاد العرب أوطاني وكل العرب إخواني، ثم يدخلوا قاعات الدرس ينهلون العلم ألوانا. لكنني أخشى على مشاعركم الصادقة، لذلك سأخفي عنكم أن أطفالنا يقضون الليل والأيام من فجرها لمغربها في طوابير مياه الشرب ومياه الغسيل والتكيات وقاطرات المساعدات الإنسانية التي قسمت الحرب والسرقة ألفها الأولى، فصارت بعد عناء قطرات. يا لسعادتي وأنا أزف لكم أن أقسام الجراحة والباطنة والأطفال والعيادات الخارجية في مستشفيات غزة تعمل بكفاءتها، وأنه رغم أنف الحرب فإن عمليات المجدولة والعادية تجري في مواعيدها، وأن أطباء الجراحة قد نجحوا مؤخرا في اكتشاف مسارات جديدة بالمناظير، وقد سجلت لهم كبرى المجلات العالمية براءات الاكتشاف. أنا آسف لأخبركم أن ثلثي المستشفيات يا سادتي خرجت عن الخدمة، وأن الأطفال المرضى يقضون ليلهم الطويل على العتمة، فأقسام مبيتهم تعمل بلا ضوء لتوفير الطاقة لصالح أقسام العمليات والعناية المركزة وثلاجات الموتى التي لا تكف عن استقبال ضحايا جدد. أحبائي، الحياة وإن صارت تحت الحرب فإن شظايا العدم ستعطل فعل الحركة، لذلك أعترف لكم أننا متعبون، وأن الحياة ناقصة، وأن الموت كامل التكوين. Thank you.
Do we need that read, or is it enough to have seen the translation?
I think it's enough to have seen it, because
Thank you.
Saeed has been, it's so powerful to listen, even if we didn't understand the language. For those of us who don't understand Arabic, but who read the words, it's so powerful. And Saeed, I do hope that we can find a way to have your words published, because
Can I
your
say
words need to be shared.
they are already being sent to many places. Brooke is translating them into French, and so they will be distributed in the UK and in France, and I know they will go to other places, including the USA.
They really should. And thank you for sharing that. And we're so pleased that you were able to be with us, Saeed,
I
because
appreciate your effort for your kindness translation and your effort to reach with our voice and message between words. This mean to us big mean, and it's mean that they are in the world human and people still feel of our humanitarian suffering under war, under hunger, under hard condition. So thank you for this meeting. I am sorry to say that I will go now because I need 2 hours to arrive my tent, and as you know now it's 7 o'clock in Palestine or in Gaza time, so it's too late, and I need 2 hours at least to arrive my tent with my daughter Siba and Selma, and maybe I use the donkey cart or horse cart to can arrive to my tent. So thank you.
Saeed, I know that everybody here will be wanting you and your lovely girl to go safely. And thank you for that long journey, because 2 hours back is 2 hours to get to Nasser Hospital. So it's been an incredible gift you've given us to come all this way to do that.
If I can request from my friend David to take picture and or a screen shot for this meeting while I speaking, that I will
Yes,
as I will publish in my Facebook as a browsing
shall we
of this meeting. So
should we put you on speaker view then?
please my friend David capture me and send it to my WhatsApp account, please.
I think Saeed is on speaker view now, is that right? So we need you on speaker view. Would you be able to, want somebody take a screenshot, because I don't know how to do it?
I just did that. It's good.
Oh, brilliant.
I'll send it to you.
Thank
there
الله
you
you.
are.
معك دكتور سعيد الله معك.
الله
شكراً.
يسلمكم. شكرا
I want
جزيلا
to-
لكم.
There you
السلام
go.
عليك دكتور
I've
سعيد.
just done it, Saeed.
قلبنا
Thank-
معكم يا دكتور. مع السلامة.
Thank you.
ثانك يو
Thank you.
ثانك يو. دعواتكم لنا انه نصل بسلامه
إن
انا
شاء الله.
وبناتي سيبا وسلمى. الطريق
بإذن
طويل
الله.
وفي قصه الان حوالين المستشفى.
الله يحميكم.
إن شاء
الله
الله الله
يحميكم.
معكم الله يحميكم بحماية الله.
يلا باي باي جود باي.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
مع السلامة.
I think
Ah,
we,
Salama.
Bye, good
Good
luck.
luck.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think
Thank
maybe
you.
Dr. Omar has, I don't know whether Dr. Omar has been able to join us.
I told Dr. David that Dr. Omar will late as there is no internet in Deir al-Balah camp. He will try to join with us after 7 o'clock. So maybe he now join with you.
Okay, we will,
Thank
we'll
you.
know when he's come. Thank you.
Okay.
And so
Goodbye.
I think maybe, thank you very much. If we move on to Dr. Yasser Abu Jamai, who I know is here. I can't see him, but I know that he, are you here, Yasser?
Yes, I am around.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see you actually. Oh yes, of course I can now. A very warm welcome to you, Yasser, and known to many people here, but I will introduce you to anybody who hasn't had the privilege of meeting you. Dr. Yasser Abu Jamai is the director of the Gaza Community Mental Health Program, which is the largest mental health provider in Gaza and which has at least 4 clinics in different parts of Gaza. Yasser has been tirelessly overseeing the program's emergency mental health response. As all professionals in Gaza, the team have continued to work and carry out amazing therapy with children and families. And the team produced a report in June 2024, which lays out in detail their extraordinary work and also is testimony to the mental health impacts of this genocide. Yasser is also a founder member of the Palestine Global Mental Health Network. So thank you so much, Yasser. I wonder if I could just start with a question to you. Would that be okay?
Yes, yes, Gwen, please.
Really, just from your knowledge of families in Gaza, families who are being subjected to this terrible, deliberate starvation, could you just say something about the effects on family relationships, the effects on parents and children of being having to undergo forced starvation?
Thank you very much, Gwen. First of all, let me thank you for the coming back, if I could say, for UK-Palestine, for the organizers, UK-Palestine Mental Health Network. I mean, this is a very welcomed return of this very important event that keeps people connected by all means, you know, whether to Palestine or whether among themselves or among ourselves. And this is an appreciated effort that I think should continue forever. The situation is really difficult in different ways and in different means. We issued a report, as you said, Gwen, in July, and that report highlighted really a lot of the psychological impact that comes or that impacts the children and adults alike. And over the coming few days, we are going to issue an update, actually, another report. And it will focus more on children's stories. And I invite everyone to try to get in touch or to just check our website. I think it will be released on Monday or Tuesday at the latest. It will show some of the drawings and some of the stories that children and adults brought alike. Very powerful 8 stories, but they will really somehow try to bring the realities of Gaza to the audience and to the people locally and internationally. Now, the issue with food, as Deborah said, and I'm really thankful for her and for my colleague, Dr. Saeed, for his presence today, despite all the difficulties. I know how much it's difficult to get connected. Is that, you know, the food, it's not a very it's not an issue that you can deal with. I mean, we Palestinians, we were living for many years with many problems with power supply, for example. You can have power supply 6 hours a day, but not more than that. Okay, you can manage somehow. Women can schedule their whole houseworks that needs power supply to these 6 hours. Men can do that. Work, you can manage somehow. We had many issues with clean water. We know that different reports say that sometimes 90%, but most recently 95 and even 98% of the water in Gaza Strip is not potable. That was in 2022, I think. But with food, it's a totally different story, you know. First, the impact on the body, on the human body, because of the lack of food, you can see the result immediately. I mean, if someone will not be able to eat for 1 or 2 days, or like for 1 or 2 weeks, you will immediately see it. You will notice it. And I remember that I told many of my friends or colleagues over a Zoom meeting, it could be in previous UK-Palestine, that, you know, when we were walking in Gaza and I left Gaza in April, you know, you would see someone after like 2 or 3 weeks, for example, sometimes in a meeting or sometimes accidentally. And you would feel that that person really grew at least 1 year, he became older. And that's because it was already seen and obvious that no one is really getting enough food. Now, in the early days, the problem was with having good food. You know, for example, you can still continue to eat, but you can't find vegetables, you can't find fruit. And then famine was clear in Gaza and in the north for a few months. And for the last 3 or 4 months, the problem with the presence of even flour, you know, the very basic thing that any family would need just to make bread, is not there in Gaza, you know. The good news, I'm not sure if that's good or what, you know, but the UNRWA last week started to distribute 1 bag of 25 kilograms of flour to a family, or to each family that has 10 members and more. So that was the criteria already. If you have 10 members in your family, and of course they would look into your civil registrar, then you are entitled to receive 25 kilograms of flour. Do you know what does that mean? It means that you can have flour, maybe that's enough for maybe, I would guess, for 1 week maximum. And these are the efforts of the international community that everyone is talking about for the last weeks or months, about, you know, easing the entrance of food into Gaza Strip. And we are talking only about flour, you know. So again, which means that everyone is really starving. Youngs, adults, children, youth, everyone. So you see your children not only not growing, but they are even sometimes losing weight. There were several research studies that said that the children in Gaza were not on their average tall as their, you know, counterparts or let me say, children from the same age in the region. And there were different stories of problems with anemia, for example. That's even prior to October 2023. So the problems were already there, but they intensified. And for parents, they were really seeing how things are. And that was really terrible. I mean, what can you do? I mean, how can you revert that? This is something that you cannot reverse, really. I mean, you have to have good food in order to grow well, you know, emotionally, psychologically, physically, and by all means, especially for young children. And the people in Gaza, the population is among the most educated in the world, you know. They know what's going on. They know what that happens. They know what it means. They knew why their children and themselves, they were having multiple times of upper respiratory tract infections, of gastrointestinal infections. And then later on, when things got intensified with jaundice, for example, and then sometimes with scabies and with whatever kinds of diseases that are mainly not only the result of the unavailability of food, but also the lack of a good hygiene system, clean place, because of the crowdedness and because of the difficult living conditions of almost 2 million people pushed to just stay in small areas that are announced safe areas. Now, at the same time, those children who are young, who are not eating enough, they were in charge of several of other issues. For example, bringing water. For example, trying to collect some papers, some dirty, some dirt, some wooden items, just to be able to make fire that is good enough to make bread, for example, for the mother, or to make food if there is food items. And that is really a big of work. A child who is 8 or 9 will try with his other, like, sister or brother, they will go together to fill in a gallon of like 20 liters or sometimes 10 liters and carry it back filled with water, maybe after walking for about 2 or 3 kilometers. So children were not children anymore. We talk about that. We are talking about that as mental health professionals for many years already. But now things are different. The sounds of the bombardment continue to happen every day. Nothing really changed. And now tens are being bombarded. We heard over the last 1 week, at least, I don't know how many times, but tens of people got killed. Most of them were children. So there is a continual feeling of there is no safe place. There is a continuous feeling that you can die at any moment. And that is accompanied with the problems that are caused by the lack of basic food. For parents, they must, feeling that they had in the Save the Children report in 2022, they were feeling helpless, There is nothing in their hand that they can help their children. And that was before the war. So how do you think about the parents at the moment? So parents really continue to feel that they are not useful. And they live under high levels of stress, high levels of anger. And you add to that there are no resources. And that's why we talk a lot about anger issues within the community, about the disruption of social ties, that the social networks are not anymore as strong as they used to be. For example, when I was in Rafah, there were many families that were living like in the form of extended families. They were trying to stick together, to help each other. But we know that in May, everyone had to flee Rafah. Almost no one is there now, I mean. But most of those families are not together anymore. They just shifted again. Every one family tried to find the best place for it. And that's simply because, the feeling that you can really give comes from that you own something. You have something in hand that you can share with the others. You can have some money to share with your cousins, with your brothers, with your sisters, with your in-laws, with your friends, etc., etc. But that feeling is not there anymore. Because you can hardly manage to get yourself and your family anything if you can even. And now you have a big problem with cash. So even if you have some money in your bank account, even if you receive some salary from somewhere, can you cash it? It's very difficult. If you are lucky, you can buy some items from some supermarkets or groceries that can give you something just through the banking application. And again, these are extremely expensive and not available to everyone. So now we hear a lot about more quarrels between family members, and we will hear a lot more about family problems, Child abuse will be an issue. Women abuse will be an issue. Gender-based violence will be an issue because people are extremely pressed and living under stress, and they are going to just to show it one way or the other. And in our report in July, we said that people are feeling in 3 main feelings, and this is unfortunately still the same, which are they are just waiting, Now, whenever I talk to someone from Gaza, they tell me, oh, what's happening? Is the ceasefire coming soon? We heard that Trump wants the ceasefire soon. When Trump is going to become the president? There is a lot of talks, a good anticipation, if we could say, that the ceasefire will come soon. The ceasefire that happened in Lebanon was really celebrated in Gaza. That was the best news that Gazans heard since October the 7th, that the ceasefire happened in Lebanon. Okay, we are next. We hope that we are next. So people are just waiting. And earlier we were saying people were anticipating or waiting to check whether their houses are still up or not up. That's not the case anymore, unfortunately. Now everyone knows what happened to his or her flat or his or her house. But now they are just waiting impatiently for a ceasefire to take place. A second feeling that is denial, People still think that they are in a maze or something that is not right, like they are in a dream or something like that. But the third most important feeling, which is anger. And anger manifests itself in different ways, And for many of those, people, whether men, whether women, whether children, teenagers, they show their anger in different ways and in different ways. But they all feel that we as Palestinians are left alone. They also feel that we were betrayed. Again, the international community speaks for decades about human rights, speaks for decades about the rights of women, the rights of children, civil rights, social rights, the right to education, the right to health, the socioeconomic rights, etc., etc. And that's all gone with the wind. So again, I'm not sure until when this is going to continue. I'm not sure this kind of paralysis that is facing the international community in bringing at least aid into Gaza Strip. And we know we do not need really to follow the news from the Israeli media every day. But when their ministers talk that this is a very good environment and atmosphere, and maybe in 1 or 2 years we will reach the half of the Gazan population at the moment, we really understand what's this about. And the people understand what is this about. And they are impatiently waiting for things to improve. And at the same time, they have nothing in their hand that could be done. And that's why we say that whatever we really feel in the community at the moment, this might be just the tip of the iceberg, nothing more than that. I think the psychological implication, the real ones that will appear, the real manifestations will be more like 3 or 4 weeks after ceasefire is reached. When people go back to live, hopefully, we don't know what kind of ceasefire is going to be there, but people will go back to hopefully live near their houses, perhaps in tents, perhaps in small, near the Rakesh, like some place here or there. And with time, they will start to mourn the loss of their beloved ones, mourn the loss of their property, mourn the loss of their jobs, mourn the loss of everything, and mourn perhaps the loss of hope in the humanity. And this is the most difficult part of it. That's why it's ceasefire is really important. Without that, our work cannot really be meaningful. Our work as psychological or mental health workers is not to help people cope with a genocide. That's not our work. Our work is to help people heal, actually. Our work is to help people recover. Our work is to help people go on with their life, not to accept and to go on with the genocide. That's not our work. We are trying our best at GCMHP. We have seen more than 30,000 people since the beginning of this year, more than 35,000 since the beginning of the war. Most of them receive psychological first aid. There are many other actors in the field who are trying to help one way or the other. But can our work be really meaningful when nothing is really improving on the ground? Can we help a child stop sleeping, having nightmares or night terrors, or bedwetting during sleep while the bombing continues to happen? Of course not. Can we help really women think in an optimistic way, in a very optimistic way about her date of delivery, when she knows that she could be just running in the street from one tent to the other, that maybe the hospital will not be there anymore to accept her? I mean, we really need at least a ceasefire. And then we need intervention. We need to make sure also that this is not going to happen again. And there are many things really on the shoulder of the international community, on the shoulders of humanity. If humanity is still interested to show that there is something that is called the humanity, there are many doubts in the Palestinian people sides. But on the other hand, we are good in struggle, We will struggle because we care for our children. We will struggle because we care for our future. We will struggle because we want to build our country back. We will be in struggle because we are the most educated people. We are in struggle because we are also a country that is filled with resources, that has massive history in there. We have all what we need really to go on with our lives, and we know this very well. But we need just time to take a breath. We need time to be able to start again, and we need also justice. We need fairness. We need dignity, and we need our human rights to be respected as the human rights of anyone else who is living on this planet. Nothing more, nothing less. And I think as mental health workers, we have a very huge responsibility to pass this message to everyone around us. We are actors. We don't speak out of nothing or out of the moon. We are well educated to understand the psychological impact, and we understand how we can help people go on with their life. So once again, I think I have given a very long answer to this very short but important question. I don't know if there is still some time for me to speak more, but in any case, I'll paste in the chat the link to our report that was released in July. I'll put also our website, and please again keep getting into it. Monday, hopefully, inshallah, it will be out. And there is an article in the Guardian that was released today. Please take a look at it. It might be of any help. Thank you very much, Gwen. But I am available if you have another question, of course.
Well, it's hard to know what to say. Yes, so that was so moving and so powerful. But one thing stays in my mind, that your team has been working with 35,000 people in the middle of this genocide. And you're not trying to help them deal with the genocide, of course, but you probably are doing something to help people keep their hopes and dreams alive in the middle of this terrible suffering. And I wonder if there's anything that you'd like to say about what you think the team is doing to really keep people going, I suppose.
Well, this is not the first time that I call my team member to go back to work, and when there is a military operation that is going on. I remember the first time I did it was in 2014. And in 2014, we had a 5-minute truce in the middle, or small truce for 5 days. And during those 5 days, I called the staff. I said, whoever can come to the offices, please come. And we called all our graduates, diploma students and graduates. We told them, whoever is free, please come to our community centers. And during those 4 days, the next 4 days, we managed to train about 20 people to provide psychological first aid. And when the ceasefire took place, we immediately started, and we were fully functioning. That was in 2014. Our offices were still there, and our capacity to communicate was still there. And our team came during the ceasefire, the truce, and then they did what they needed. But during the military attacks itself, we were not functioning. This time it was different. We were not functioning for the first couple of weeks, 3 weeks, and then patients were calling. They needed their medications. And then we thought, well, this is going to stay longer, and we cannot really be far from our society. So again, I called the staff and I told them, whoever can come, please come. And unfortunately, we were not capable of returning to Gaza building by any means. So we were meeting in Deir al-Balah and in Khan Yunis. The building in Khan Yunis was still there. And we put a plan and we started working. And our plan was to at least maintain 3 services. One is the provision of psychological first aid. And the second is for the provision of psychotropic and psychotherapy to the patients. And the third is provide care for caregivers. which means that we give a chance for our colleagues to look after themselves. And for that, we continued. We have 3 actually now in place ways that we do that. First is that we have a bi-weekly meeting among the staff that happens in Deir al-Balah and in Khan Yunis. By the way, the place in Khan Yunis was destroyed after December, so we are now operating from a remote place in Khan Yunis and a place in Deir al-Balah, and we just returned to functioning in Gaza about 3 weeks ago, actually beginning of November. And then we
Yes,
have the
I'm
second.
sorry to interrupt. I wonder whether I'm just a bit worried that Omar, who has joined us, might lose.
Yes, I see him.
So I wonder whether we could come back to what you're saying, and bring
of course
Omar, that Omar might lose his connection, because I know it's been very unstable, because of course he's joining from Deir al-Balah and it's been difficult.
Well, he can have my time too, Gwen.
But when you can come, we'll have time for you as well. But I just thought it would be terrible if we lost Omar. So if that's okay, I would just like to introduce everybody to Dr. Omar Al-Buhaisi, who is a psychiatrist and a member of the Palestine Trauma Center team. Dr. Omar works for the Palestinian Ministry of Health and is based in Al-Aqsa Hospital, where he provides psychological support to severely traumatized patients suffering profound injuries, and he also provides psychological support to the medical staff. Omar has been a compelling voice for his colleagues in the Palestine Trauma Center, articulating therapeutic work. Welcome to you, Dr. Omar. And I think we wanted, if you could speak a little bit about the kind of impacts on the community.
Okay. Thanks, Gwen. Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
يسعد مساك جميعا. يسعد مساك دكتور ياسر وزملاتنا. Good evening. Okay. First, I am sorry because I am late, because the internet connection is very bad today. You know, the energy here in the daytime working in solar energy. At night, they are switching to some kind of generator, yeah. So it is very bad connection, the internet, and of course the situation is not good at all. I will start from where Dr. Yasser finished. The people really tired. They are waiting for ceasefire. They are not able to endure no more this situation. And really, the situation on the ground is very bad, especially the living situation. And they are living in some kind of, they are struggling in their living, really. And they are suffering every day. They are suffering in getting drink water, suffering in getting food. Yeah, really, the life here in Gaza, it is some kind of awful, yeah, life. And we try here as mental health professionals to provide some help, yeah. Even the mental health professionals, they are suffering also. They are a part of this people, yeah. They are also suffer from the same situation, the same conditions. They are living mostly in the tent. They have many problems also, but they try to do their best and help their people here. I think from my point of view, the real work will start after ceasefire, because now the people, the real suffering, I mean the psychological suffering, is not appear, because the people here are busy to get and to offer the basic need, food, drink water, and to seek for secure place, yeah. And maybe after the ceasefire, what we hope it will be soon, we will see the real pictures of suffering from the psychological part. Yeah, I saw during my work with my team, BTC teams, who are very, very doing very good work, and they are working under pressure. Yeah, most of the team are living in shelters, but they are trying to make some work and to provide some psychological help for the people there. Yeah, many of them are their neighbors in the shelters. Yeah, and because to move here in Gaza, it is not easy and not safe to go from place to place. So they are trying to provide this help near their tents or homes or shelters, and they are providing psychological care individually or in group sometimes. It depends about the situation in the area. And from I think the target group and the most target who are suffering in Gaza is children. They don't understand what happened around them. Yeah, their perception is not mature. They feel suffering in everything. Some of them they don't know nothing about what is going on in our country here. Yeah, they are looking for peace. They are looking for a safe place. Many people here are changed their shelters many times. They displaced more than times from one place to another. They are seeking for safety. Yeah, but here in Gaza, nowhere is safe. Really. For example, here in Middle Zone area, which is supposed to be safe, yeah, daily there is an airstrike and bombardment. For example, today, when after our meeting in the afternoon, in our street, it was airstrike on one cars and 5 people was killed. Yeah, after I finished my meeting with you, directly in our street here. So it is very dangerous. Yeah, 4 of the people was killed in the car, civilian, innocent people. Yeah, and many people are injured from the street. Yeah, so they don't care about nothing about the law, international law, or anything. Many injured people, they are from the children. I saw in Al-Aqsa Hospital, many children who lost their limbs, they are amputees already. They are 2 years, 3 years old and amputees. You can imagine that. Yeah, what future for them will be. Yeah, and their families. Many children are lost their families. Yeah, this maybe sometimes one children or two are still from one families. They are become orphans without no one, and some of them are living with other families because they have no one. They are suffering from the military situation and also from the bad living situation here. Poverty, starvation. They are looking to find something to eat. Yeah, it is not. It is some kinds of weapons they use it now. It is really affected weapons. The people here is able to fight and struggle and to withstand against military action. But you know, the starvation action is very bad. Yeah, they become tired and they are not able to continue no more. Yeah, we cannot speak about coping with this situation because the starvation is not easy, especially for children. Yeah, at the end, your children will ask you about something to eat. Yeah, yeah. You know, here the basic thing here for the people to eat is bread. It is absent now. You are not able to find some bread to eat or to feed your children, and this is very big problem. And if many things are absent from the market, and if there is something present, it is very expensive, maybe 10 times or more than usual. Yeah, and the people have no money. You know, many people here are lost their job, they lost their life, they lost their houses. They are already displaced. They have nothing. They are not able to buy something. Yeah, and they are depending on the international organizations to have some food. But unfortunately, even the international organization, they are not able to bring many things. Yeah, because of the border are closed. Yeah, they are trying, but they are not able because of Israeli pressure and Israeli policy. Yeah, this policy is seems to be to make pressure on the people here to accept anything. Yeah, and I think it is not easy for them to continue. Yeah, for us as professional mental health professional, also it is not easy to provide a normal service. Yeah, because we are also suffer and we feel the situation what the people are felt. Yeah, here in Gaza, they have no drink water, they have no food, no electricity already. Now all the gas strips are dark. Yeah, they are using something to make a small light like I use now. Yeah, and we're using some batteries sometimes, and we need to charge these batteries from somewhere. Yeah, our life is always looking to do something. Yeah, always seeking normal, seeking living. Yeah, because here nothing easy here really. Yeah, and for example, from my work in the Al-Aqsa hospitals, we have there mental health units which provide a mental health service and psychological support for medical staff and for the patient and their families. Even medical staff there are tired already. They are working very hard since more than 1 year. They have no rest. Yeah, they are working in very bad conditions. Yeah, the lack of medical issues there. They are working in minimal issues that they are providing from international organization, and WHO try to bring something for them, but this is not enough. Yeah, we can speak about situation in north and south. In the north, in the south, situation is very bad, but in the north it is worse. Yeah, they have really very bad problems and very bad situations there, because the living situation is more worse than here in the south, really. And again, the people looking for peace, ceasefire soon. Yeah, and there is some rumors now
What you said,
about ceasefire. Yeah.
Yeah.
That it will become. They are very happy. Even yesterday night, it was some celebration. You know, they celebrate with nothing. Yeah. The people in the shelters, they will celebrate because they hear some rumors about ceasefire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They need a rest. Yeah.
You were saying that all this pressure on all the pressure that's exerted on the community just to accept whatever. And I suppose I wanted to ask both you and Yasser one question. We know all the deliberate attempts to destroy life, to destroy community, to humiliate, to weaken people morally, psychologically. And yet both of your teams are still working and you're still providing help to other people. And I wonder if you could each just say something about what is it you think that helps keep you going in this terrible situation when you're tired, hungry, and it's a struggle just to exist. Maybe you could each just say one thing about that.
Okay. Gwen, I think we appreciate your solidarity, very important. The international solidarity and the people from other countries is very important for us, because the people here, they felt that they are alone. Yeah, especially after the ceasefire in Lebanon, yeah, they felt that they are alone, and we need support from another people, from other countries, from outside, yeah, and this support is make us strong, yeah, really, and it make us to work and to provide something for our people here, yeah, and during our work in the field, we feel that the people happy, that somebody asked them about their situation, about how they feel, yeah, yeah, when because they are really in this life, no one, all the people are busy, yeah, busy in their life, yeah. So it is very good to ask just and to listen to their problems, to their complaint, yeah. So this solidarity is very important from the people outside of Gaza.
Thank you. And maybe the same question to you, Yasser, about your team in Gaza and what you think it is that helps them keep going and to keep doing the work which they are doing.
I think the igniting thing is the feeling of agency. That's the most important one that makes them really try, because I was telling the stories about trying to bring and collect my team together and start work despite the difficulties. In the first few days, they would feel this is extremely difficult and it's almost impossible, and they would question, how can we function? How can we work? But a few days later, they would start feel that, okay, we are helping our community. We are doing our work. We are supporting those children. We are making parents better work with their and deal with their children. We are preventing further psychological harm, and we are giving help. And this sense of agency is something that many people in Gaza now lack. They feel that they are absolutely paralyzed. So no, we are working, we are doing something, we are helping. This is the first thing. And then later on, with more work, when they start to feel how they are like positively affecting the lives of other people around them, that keeps the drive, that keeps them working ahead of them. And again, I'll mention the report that will come soon, inshallah. That report will bring some stories about some of the most complicated cases that the team managed to help one way or the other. So these things, our work is very hard. The circumstances are very hard, but it's really rewarding when you see kids smiling again, when you see parents feeling that we can help, that we can do something better in order to support our children, and that no matter what happens, some of those symptoms that appear in our children, they are really due to unbearable circumstances, and that we can outgrow these things. So I think these are the main two drives.
Thank you so much. And there's a question from Pam, which I'll ask you, Omar, if you could respond to that. The question was about the communication between the different parts of Gaza. I know that some of the team are in the north. One joined us this morning from Gaza City. And the question is, are you able to be in contact with the team in the north, or are you mostly cut off from each other?
Yes, we are able, but it is very difficult really to communicate with somebody in the north. Yeah, even the communication here among people is not easy, because most of the infrastructure of communication is destroyed, and it is very bad if you want to contact with another my friends, for example, in the north. I need to call many times, maybe to succeed to have a communication with somebody. Yeah, and sometimes we use internet, but the internet network in the north is not good also. You can maybe try for a days to have some connections with somebody. For me personally, I try to connect with my friends there to ask about them, and sometimes I am not able to contact them, especially in the north area. For example, Bet Lahia, Bet Hanun, and Jabalia, they have very bad situation. Most of the infrastructure for communication are destroyed there. Yeah, but maybe in Gaza City it is better than little bit. So the communication and the internet network here is very bad as a result of Israeli airstrikes. They are. I think they destroyed everything. They destroy infrastructure. They try to destroy the human here also, not also the infrastructure. But the people try to go with their life, but really they are tired. Yeah, they have good solidarity among them. Yeah, they try to help each other, but okay, for how many times? For they cannot continue forever, of course. So as I said, they are waiting for ceasefire really, and they need it, and they need a rest. Yeah.
Thank you. Fatima has raised her hand.
Yes.
Would you like to ask your question, Fatima?
Yes, please. Good evening, Doctor. I just want to, good evening, everyone. I just want to ask you regarding the North. I have actually got today a really horrendous footage of what's going on in, let me see, which one was in, I think in the North. It was in the North, and it is horrendous how they are killing the Palestinians, even the injured people, while they are being rescued, and killing children in the street. How this in compare of the situation in the north, such as Khan Yunis, Deir al-Balah, Rafah, and these areas, and how it could, I don't know, it's the same question we're asking, how we can help, how we can do these things, but it's the same question and the same answer. But in compare, are you able to help the North? Are you able to provide them any aid? Like they are starving, they don't have anything, maybe medication as well, lack of medication as well. How you are in other areas communicating or trying to be effective, basically, because I lost, and myself, I lost actually the hope from the international community. Sorry to say that, but it's a fact, unfortunately.
You know,
Thank you, Fatima.
The military operations and the Israeli aggression in the north is more than really in the south, and maybe they are trying to do something in the north, like a secure area for them or something. No one knows what they want from the north. They are trying to push the people to leave their this area. Yeah, for example, Beit Lahia and Jabalia and Beit Hanun, this area, it is near their border. So they are pushing the people from this area. They are trying to evacuate this area. So they are using a heavy bombardment and aggression against the people there. I heard from friends that many wounded people in the street and many bodies killed during they are walking and leaving this area, and they need help, and no one able even to give some medical help for them, and the medical service in the north area is very bad. Yeah, there is some hospitals, but this hospitals now it is out of service because of the Israeli aggression. For example, Kamal Adwan hospitals in Beit Lahia, 2 days ago, they entered this hospital and arrested many of the teams there, and they killed some of them. Yeah, and they evacuate these hospitals from Beit Lahia. So the people need a minimum medical service, and they don't get it. Yeah, really, and the people there try help each other. There is some help, yeah, but it's the minimum service, and maybe some international organization try to send some medical issues and drugs and to help, but it's not easy to cross the way from the north from south to the north, because there is a checkpoint, Israeli checkpoint, and they are many times they are stopping bus of some help. Yeah, and I think if the situation will continue more in such way, it will be a catastrophe really. Yeah, because the people are dying and no one knew about them really. I heard there is many bodies in the street and many wounded families, the whole families they are lost their life during displaced from one area to another. Yeah, and the people there usually change their places. Yeah, you know, they are not staying in one place. Some of them are displaced more than 20 times, seeking for a secure place. Yeah, and it is not easy to keep your life there and to protect your children and your family. And also, you need also to have some food and water. And this is big problems here in Gaza. That's you can get some food. Yeah, really.
I think as you've been speaking, a lot of people have been asking on the chat, what can we do to help? And there are some suggestions on the chat, but I think it's a very good moment when we're thinking of what can we do to bring in Lama Khoury, because she's going to speak about a campaign. And I'll just introduce Lama and say a huge thanks. I hope you'll be able to stay till the end, Omar and Yasser, but if we lose you, I want to give you enormous thanks for your incredibly moving presentations. So Dr. Lama Khoury is a psychoanalyst, a psychoanalytic supervisor, an activist and writer who is also a founding member of the Palestine Global Mental Health Network. Lama has played a pivotal role in supporting the development of mental health networks worldwide, now numbering, well, at the last count anyway, 20. She has developed an international online campaign in support of children, which she will now speak about. Over to you, Lama. I think you're a co-host, I think, so you can share the screen.
Thank you, Gwen. So thank you very much, Gwen, for the introduction, and good evening, everyone. سلام وحب للجميع يعطيكم ألف عافية. I'm speaking to you from the stolen land of the Lenape people, which has been claimed and renamed as New York. It's an honor to be here, though I must admit it is difficult to hold it together after hearing from such a phenomenal lineup of heroes and heart-shattering realities. So I bring with me today an urgent call from the Palestine Global Mental Health Network. It's a call for action that offers something rare amid the rubble, a sense of agency and a glimmer of hope. This call is not just about Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem and Lebanon. It is about the children, all children. It's a call to demand that world leaders hold Israel accountable to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. And the convention is a legally binding document that is supposed to protect every child on this planet. The campaign I want to share is called No Child a Target. And I would like to mention by name comrades and colleagues who are part and very important part of this, the team working on the No Child a Target campaign. I will mention them in alphabetical order by first name. They're all very important members. Cairo Arafat, Cheryl Qamar, Christine Schmidt, Liz Berger, and Vivian Abu Alloul. And I want to especially thank Vivian. She's always here. She's going to help me with the presentations. Before diving into the campaign, I want to ground us back. I mean, we've been grounded in the situation in Gaza, but I wanted to, focus this campaign on the realities of children. In Lebanon, since October 4, Israeli violence has murdered an average of 4 children and injured tens every day. And these statistics are not just numbers, they are lives, names, laughter stolen, futures erased. Even those who survive the bombs carry the burden of profound psychological trauma. It cannot be emphasized enough that the Zionist settler colonial entity targets our children to obliterate the future of the Palestinian nation. We saw what starvation does to future generations. And I will repeat it, the Zionist settler colonial entity targets our children to obliterate the future of the Palestinian nation. In Gaza, we heard our children are systematically starved with serious ramifications, and food and medicine is prevented from entering. Doctors report, who have worked in Gaza, report that children are being shot with precision in the head and chest, proof of a clear shoot-to-kill policy. Although we don't know exactly what's the toll of children killed in Gaza, one thing that is tragically clear: more children and women have been killed in Gaza in the last year than in any other modern conflict in modern history. Consider these statistics, which I know you all know, but it's worth repeating. 10 children a day lose a limb. Gaza now has the largest population of child amputees per capita in the world. 19,000 children have been orphaned, their parents and caregiver stolen by bombs. 90, probably 100%, of Gaza's children urgently need mental health support. And as we keep our eyes on Gaza, it's very important not to lose sight of the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Palestinian children face escalating violence and systematic displacement. Military action and settler violence had led to a threefold increase in deaths of Palestinian children in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. These children, our children, are the only ones on the planet subjected to prosecution in military court. And you probably heard of a recent law passed by the Knesset, which states that Israeli authorities can sentence children as young as 12 to life term. In fact, just this week, it's not life term, but a boy, Ayham, he was accused of throwing stones. His terrorism is throwing stones, is now in jail. And you know, there are questions that have been collected by the Trauma Center, questions that our children are asking that really no child should be asking. When will I die? Will I hear your voice? When the missile hits the tent, will it hurt? Will we die right away? Will my amputated hand grow back again? And most devastating of all, from a little girl pulled from the rubble of her home. عمو هذا حلم ولا عن جد? Uncle, is this a dream or for real? Parents and families are left powerless to provide for their children basic necessities of life. I am close to a young Bedouin family living on the outskirts of Jerusalem, a mother, a father, and 4 children, all under the age of 4. And often the mother sends me videos and pictures of the kids playing and laughing. And one day she sent me this message on WhatsApp. She says, I had a dream. I dreamt that I urgently needed to send you the phone numbers of relatives here. I felt I needed to give you the numbers in case we are killed so you can take care of the children. But why send the numbers to Lama? She asks herself in the dream, and she answers, because they may all be killed. There are no words left. ماذا الحكي? We have exhausted every plea, every adjective, every fragment of our humanity to describe the indescribable. But we must act, and here comes the No Child a Target. And now I'm gonna share my screen. So where is my screen? Here's my screen. Second, here. So, okay, let me go. So, you know, this is the No Child a Target, which is started by the Palestine Global Mental Health Network. But we are members of, let me see if I can pull this up so you can see it. So we are 20 countries. We come from 20 countries. And the 20 countries, as you see, like Palestine Global is in the middle, and the 20 countries independent networks, but are often take guidance from Palestine Global. So this is the international petition. If you scan the QR code you'll go to this page. It looks like that. And the petition basically says, you know, calling on world leaders to hold Israel accountable, and describes what I just said to you. So if you can take a second, scan the QR code, and please put the, you know, sign this petition, put the information in, sign the petition. Vivian will place a link in the chat to make it simpler. So I'll wait for a second, and then I'll go to the next action. Okay. So the next action, if you live in the United States or have a US address, you can write to elected officials here in the US with the same message, you know, hold Israel accountable. Our hope is, you know, the more we inundate the Congress and the Senate, you know, something will shift. Of course, it's a long journey, but we're well on our way. You know, we just started 2 weeks ago, and already the international petition has almost 2,500 signatures. Of course, we need 5 billion, but we'll get there step at a time. So again, you know, Vivian will put a link in the chat for the letter. Finally, this is our Instagram account. If you could scan the code, follow our Instagram account. It will be the hub where we have all the information for you. And eventually we're going to have a website. But for now, it's the Instagram account. So if you could follow the, and so finally, this is a letter which Vivian is also going to place in the chat. The letter, as you see, is to your friends. So just copy and paste it in your email, please. Send it to at least 10 people. Ask them to send it to 10 people. And, you know, we rely on you. You will make a difference. This will make a difference. This is the hope. You know, this is the hope. We're 5 billion people. We're 7 billion people on this planet. You know, the US and the US and Israel are 2 countries. You know, there are 193 members in the United Nations. So don't lose hope. And I'll leave you with my mantra that I've been repeating since October last year. Keep talking about Palestine, keep posting, keep writing, keep disrupting, and don't stop believing that Palestine and Lebanon will be free. And the people united will never be defeated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lama. And as ever, you're such an inspiration, and also just to draw people's attention to the links that David and Pam, I think, put in for UK, people to write to their MPs in Britain, and including your petition in that will be extremely important, that we send that to all our members of Parliament, and obviously for people who've joined from other countries, to their representatives as well. So thank you, Lama and Vivian, and all the team who've been doing this fantastic project. So we're now coming to the end of our meeting, and I want to thank everybody who's joined and who's engaged in an act of solidarity and witness bearing, which may feel as if it isn't a lot, but I think what you've heard is that it does mean a huge amount, that it is important to keep bearing witness, to keep being engaged, to keep wanting to hear. Saeed and Omar have spoken to that really powerfully. Yasser speaks to that, and to the whole sense that we are in this together, and that what is happening to you is not happening to us in the same way, but it is happening to us because we are involved in this. This is our struggle too. And so I think I will end there and say thank you to everybody who's joined, and particularly thank you to our speakers, to Omar, Saeed, Yasser, Deborah, and Lama.